located approximately 90 kilometers outside of Adelaide, along the Princess Highway stretch between the towns of Murray Bridge and Tailem Bend, stands the historic pioneer village known as Old Tailem Town. A privately owned collection of antique buildings, vehicles, and items dating back as far as 1870. Established in 1982, Old Tailem Town is Australia's largest pioneer village. It is the life's work of one dedicated collector with a dream of preserving the heritage of early Australian life for the education of future generations. With over 110 buildings packed full with artifacts and possessions, some dating back over 100 years, Old Tailem Town has its fair share of ghost stories and recorded paranormal happenings. During the day, the streets of Old Tailem Town are warm and inviting. Its picturesque scenery tells a story of a time long since past, a time that far predates iPhones, status updates, and even television, where the center of family life revolved not around computers and electronic devices, but instead sun-drenched porches on summer mornings and warm fires on winter nights. Among this atmosphere of rich history, you cannot help but feel your movements and conversations fall to unseen ears, a shy interest doing its best not to be seen or heard. However, when the sun goes down, the mood changes entirely. What was once warm and inviting is now dark, foreboding, and most unwelcoming. Shy, unseen ears are replaced by a tall, dark figure skulking through the shadows. The tall Shadow Man is a commonly sighted apparition in Old Tailem Town. He is not grounded to any one building. He roams the village at night and is believed to stalk tour groups on the edge of view, making calculated appearances with the intention of frightening whomever he marks to be a vulnerable patron. He is also believed to be responsible for a host of other negative and aggressive phenomena associated with Old Tailem Town. The identity of the Shadow Man is unknown and a point of much speculation. His presence, on the other hand, is unmistakable. For Wendy and myself, it was our encounter with this entity back in 2014 that has led us to return to investigate here again. In March of 2014, Wendy and I took part in a night investigation of Old Tailem Town, led by the Haunted Horizons tour company. It was our first ever paranormal investigation, and it gave us our first ever paranormal experience. In the building known as Bell's Emporium, there have been many unexplainable events that have occurred, and in a small space filled with mirrors and mannequins, one expects a certain degree of psychological influence to raise anxiety levels. However, our experience is corroborated by two notable controls. Both Wendy and myself began to experience an overwhelming feeling of nausea relatable to seasickness as soon as we entered Bell's Emporium, a feeling so strong that we both felt as if the floor was moving beneath us. For me, the feeling of sickness became so strong that within a couple of minutes I could no longer stand upright due to vertigo and had to sit down. The first control is that neither of us were aware at the time that the other was experiencing the exact same feelings. We had entered the room as part of a tour group in near pitch darkness. As such, we had been inadvertently separated and positioned at opposite ends of the room. By the time I sat down, all torchlights had been turned off, and both of us were making our best efforts not to distract from the tour with our conditions. Secondly, after sharing our stories once we had left the Emporium, we decided to research the phenomena we had experienced and discovered this was not only a common occurrence in many negative energy hauntings, but we were not the first people to experience this feeling in the Old Tailem Town Emporium. However, we had no such knowledge of any paranormal seasickness accounts prior to our first investigation, ruling out subconscious influence as a contributing factor. On the surface, our experience in the Emporium has no direct links to the Shadow Man of Old Tailem Town, and if not for the claimed sighting of another tour group member who believes he saw the tall dark figure cross the outside of the Emporium's front window while we were experiencing our sickness phenomena, we would have no suspicions of our experience being related to the dark entity. We returned to Old Tailem Town for our daytime investigation, expecting nothing, but with the hopes of gaining something. We sought a confrontation with the dark entity we believed may have been responsible for our experience several years earlier, but we also welcomed communication from any benevolent spirit attached through positivity to the village. With so many buildings to explore and only a few hours to do so, we prioritized key buildings that were well known for paranormal activity, and also a few areas we felt drawn to in our first visit that were unable to investigate fully. The Bent Elbow Hotel, Schoolhouse, and Church are three of Old Tailem Town's most well-known paranormal hotspots. Unfortunately, none of these locations yielded any visual or audio evidence during our investigation. Bell's Emporium, on the other hand, once again proved to be our highlight, giving us a very clear, very relevant, and quite unexpected EVP.
So I've got the spirit box. So I've got the spirit box.
Bell's Emporium is a very long building filled to the brim with delicate antiques and divided into three sections, each with its own door. In our first visit, we investigated both ends of the Emporium but bypassed the middle section altogether. Our first experience took place in the mannequin end, but on this investigation both Wendy and myself felt most drawn to the middle section, an area filled with cots, prams, and other nursery items. At the time we captured this EVP, Wendy was positioned just outside the door, confirming there were no other patrons within the vicinity that could have contaminated our audio work. We are unsure of the exact history of Bell's Emporium. Like most of the buildings in Old Tailem Town, it has been redesigned and does not serve its original purpose. It is possible that the EVP we captured is residual energy associated with the building's origins or the land on which the building sits. However, we believe it is most likely a residual energy attachment to the antique cot that sat just inches to my left, or one of the many infant-related items sprawled out in front of me. Possibly the tragic result of a child's last breath, the unfortunate victim of a ravaging disease, or perhaps it's not the energy of an infant, but rather the memory of a mother haunted by her loss until her dying day. In any case, capturing an EVP such as this fills us with both appreciation and sadness. The only other piece of evidence we captured during our investigation came during a spirit box session in one of Tailem Town's manor homes. It was a building we both felt drawn to during our first visit to Old Tailem Town, but were unable to investigate within.
Can anyone say hello? Can anyone say hello?
We were unable to uncover any history for the manor home, or any links to anyone named Maggie. It is of course possible that this was part of a radio broadcast, but considering we conducted a number of spirit box sessions during our investigation, and apart from the baby's cry in the Emporium, which we did not hear at the time, and do not believe came from the spirit box, the word Maggie was the only non-static sound produced during the entire investigation. That's it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for all future investigation episodes. If you are interested in visiting Old Tailem Town for yourself, the village is open most days for self-guided day tours, or you can take part in a night tour or paranormal investigation of Old Tailem Town through the Haunted Horizons tour group.